No, you're doing it all wrong. You're supposed to eat with your hands, not with utensils. What? Savvy expats, I get it. Filipino culture and mannerisms can seem very confusing at times. You may often find yourself questioning how you should act around Filipinos. So, do I take my shoes off before entering the house? And why is everyone addressing me as ma'am, sir? Do I give mano to this grandma right here? Or better yet, what incarnation even is a mano? Well, in this video, we answer all of these questions about must-know Filipino etiquette so that you don't embarrass yourself adjusting to this new culture. Alright, without wasting time, let's get into it. Okay fellas, class is in session. The first irrefutable principle of Filipino etiquette that everyone knows about is hiya culture. Hiya, what now? What is that, Evan, a karate move? No. Hiya essentially translates to embarrass in English. Or to take it a step further, to be hiya means to feel a sense of shame. And this sense of shame is seen in almost all areas of Filipino culture. Allow me to give you some examples. Hiya is what prevents a Filipino from asking you a personal question out of fear that it would offend you. Hiya is what prevents a Filipino from taking a generous tip from you because he's shy. Hiya is what prevents a Filipino from showing any display of anger or disappointment out of fear the group may see him in a bad light. And last but not least, hiya is what propels a Filipino to become a doctor out of fear that he'll bring shame to his parents if he doesn't otherwise. Are you catching my drift here? Simply put, hiya is ingrained in the culture for everybody and it means to save face. You see, Filipinos care very highly of their self-image, so if there is any means for them to degrade their self-reputation, they will avoid it at all costs. It's all a matter of three things. 1. Having self-respect. 2. Getting along with everyone around them. And 3. Trying to appear as pleasant as possible. This is why you'll find that many Filipinos fear to disagree openly for fear that they'll cause an offense. Compare that to many us Americans, we're the opposite. Most people in America aren't afraid to criticize in public, be direct in what they want, and even raise their voice at a waiter if they don't get what they want. And so, what would we call this? Well, in Filipino culture, we'd call this a grave social sin. Walang hiya. Dun dun dun. Walang hiya means to be shameless. So to take big plates of food in a party, to be first in line, comment on someone else's appearance, not offer to pay the bill, or even ask for money, all of this are examples of walang hiya. In American culture, it's simply normal to be assertive and shameless about what you want, while in Philippine culture, on the other hand, if someone calls you walang hiya,
napaka-walang hiya mo!
That is the ultimate insult. So, what are our takeaways from this? I'm not saying you should step on eggshells and save face in front of Filipinos 24/7, but just bear in mind that politeness is paramount. And that brings us to our next point. Etiquette tip number 2 is what we would call PAKIKISAMA. PAKIKISAMA in a rough translation means to get along. And so if you're ever in doubt how to get along in the Philippines and blend in, then bring to mind PAKIKISAMA. You ever hear about those stories of those obnoxious foreigners that have nothing better to do with their time than to yell at Filipino cash register clerks for no apparent reason? Well, this is the opposite of PAKIKISAMA. PAKIKISAMA can be translated to have unity, honor, and respect. And contrary to what's normal in daily life in the US, there are just certain things that you don't do in Philippine culture. So, for one, steer clear from bringing your political views from the US to the Philippines. Flaunting your liberal values just won't go so well here. Secondly, avoid obnoxiously confronting a waiter or barking insults if he gets your order wrong. This is something that's common in the US but would give you a terrible look in the Philippines. It's just best to talk to him quietly and ask that your order be changed. And same goes with dealing with police officers, government officials, cashiers, and hotel receptionists. If there's a problem, sort it out quietly and patiently. If by then he isn't listening, then that's when you can go full American mode. Just kidding. Before you do that, please bear in mind etiquette tip number 3. Politeness is paramount. Everything in Philippine culture is about being polite, considerate, and hospitable to other people. And even ingrained in the language, there's a dedicated word to indicate respect, which is po. There's no definitive translation for this word po, but if you find locals saying it after every other word, it's because they're speaking with respect. Funnily enough, Filipinos are so polite to the point where it's become a stereotype that Filipinos never take the last piece of food. And so if you're ever eating with a group of people, it's not uncommon to see one last scoop of rice or one last piece of chicken on the serving plate. It's because everybody is too hiya or shy to get the last piece. However, if I can be transparent with you, sometimes politeness is just taken so far to the point where many just beat around the bush. Meaning, there's a lack of straightforwardness when you need to be direct sometimes. For example, when you're setting a meeting with someone, there's no definite time. Or when you're asking a grocery store clerk where a certain food item is and he doesn't know, he'll still point you in a random direction even if it's the wrong direction, instead of simply saying, I don't know. Or say for instance, you want to get the opinion of those around you. Oftentimes there'll be nobody that speaks up, and if they do speak up, they just beat around the bush and don't give a straightforward, direct answer. And so these are the little things that are quite common in Philippine culture. I found that many Filipinos mistaken meekness with indecisiveness and indirectness. Now for a long lost piece of etiquette that's still upheld in the Philippines at number 4, that is Filipinos dress modestly. Unlike in most Western countries these days, it's still ingrained in Filipino culture for most people to dress modestly. Unless you're going to the wrong places, most women will cover up with pants, dresses, or skirts. It's actually out of the ordinary to wear anything too revealing. And so of course, this can be attributed to the Philippines being a conservative religious country, so these values are still intact. So modesty is absolutely an essential behavior for young women in the Philippines, and anything but that is frowned upon. And this just goes to show that the Philippines is still a conservative country that upholds old values instead of progressive values. Now for the 5th piece of etiquette that we always talk about, but I believe is very crucial for you to know, that is Filipino timing. Here's the thing, there are 2 things in this world: Filipino Standard Time and regular time. While be there at 2 p.m. means be there at 2 p.m. in regular time, by Filipino Standard Time, be there by 2 p.m. most likely means you'll probably get here by 3 p.m. You see, it's not out of the ordinary or unusual for Filipinos to be 1 to 2 hours late due to their relaxed approach to punctuality. And Filipino timing isn't just exclusive to arrival time. This applies to all other areas of life here, from most people's walking pace to handling transactions, and especially when you're dealing with paperwork, everything is just a little bit slower in the Philippines. And so no matter how much this can be frustrating to many of you, at the end of the day, it's a completely different country with a completely different pace of life. In the West, things run fast. In the Philippines, things run slow. That's just the way it is. All we can do on our end is 1, set your meetings earlier, and 2, just adjust your mindset to be more patient. And so there you have it, savvy expats. That is part 1 of the essential basic etiquette you must know about in the Philippines. If you want to get a look at more content, feel free to follow our Instagram link down below. If you found this video to be of value and you want to see part 2 of basic etiquette in the Philippines that you must know about, then feel free to give this video a like and subscribe to the channel. And so thank you for watching, savvy expats, and I'll see you in the next video. God bless.